Welcome to the Waymo Way, where we curate insights on the Waymo way of doing things in sales, product, marketing, engineering, what have you. Every episode, we'll bring you a leader who's pioneering a first principles approach to solving a business or a technology problem. Hey folks, today we're going to talk about the Waymo way of building product. We've adopted this consumer mindset to building an enterprise application that's had many positive spin-offs. To talk about all of this, we have Waymo's co-founder and CTO, Venkat Maladi, with us today.
I'm Venkat Maladi, co-founder and CTO of Waymo. We started Waymo in 2013. Before that, I was with Google for about 5 years. I was in the mobile team working on a bunch of things related to maps and location. That was also the time Google was getting into this personal assistant. Why do we need to wait for the users to tell us what they want? Why can't we know what they want? So, which I thought was a pretty interesting approach. So that's something that stayed at the back of my mind. I wanted to start something up, was not sure what it was going to be. So I thought I'll try out a few things. While I was doing that, Yamini, she and I, we have known each other from college. So that's when she was talking about the idea of Waymo and how we can help large enterprises with sales productivity. And that's when I was able to connect what Google was doing in the consumer space with the opportunity that is available in the enterprise space. That's how we got started.
Awesome. So you've seen consumer applications at scale. What is it that consumer applications do really well?
I think the most important thing is there is a hero journey. So if you take some of the most popular consumer applications, it could be Uber, it could be DoorDash, it could even be Instagram, right? In all those cases, there is a specific action that the user is trying to do. You're booking a cab, you're ordering food, or you're even just posting a photo. But what these apps do really well is they really optimize for that hero journey. What is the soonest I can call a cab? What is the soonest I can place an order? Or what is in case of Instagram, for example, it's not just the soonest. What in the shortest amount of time, how can I post the best possible photo? So that's something that they do really well. Yes, there are other journeys, could be support, could be like whatever, but there is that hero journey that each and every consumer application focuses on, and that becomes the most important thing and delightful for the user.
So you operate in a very different world today.
Yeah.
How is the enterprise different from consumer?
So in the context of a hero user journey, right, like the primary difference for enterprise applications is there could be multiple. So if you take selling, for example, there are many number of things that need to happen for a successful sale. So by definition, enterprise applications they have like multiple journeys, which inherently brings in complexity. There is also the concept of, not the concept, but at a large enterprise or even at a SMB kind of enterprise, right? There are different people who have problems related to the app that you're building or the application that you're building, right? Could be a salesperson, could be a manager, could be an operations person, could be the CEO, could be the head of sales. So unlike a consumer application where there's typically just one person that you're trying to solve for, in enterprise application, there are multiple people that you're trying to solve for.
Right. So what can the enterprise world learn from the consumer world?
For the way the enterprise world can learn from the consumer world is by looking at these concepts, right? Like we talked about the hero user journey. Obviously, for the case of enterprise, there are multiple hero journeys, which is why it's important to, even if there are multiple, the most important thing starts with defining what they are. So if you take sales, for example, prospecting is one journey. How do you get your word out to multiple people? Or there is already someone who is interested. What is the quickest way in which you can close your product? If someone is buying insurance, you understand what they're trying to look for. What is the easiest or fastest way? Or it could even be the best way, right? Or you have an existing customer and you're trying to cross-sell, upsell. What is the best way? So it's not that there is a single hero journey, but at least identifying all of these more precisely. And in each case, you're trying to find out what is the most optimum way, or what is the quickest. So being able to define this will go a long way in creating delightful.
So understanding context and helping the user prioritize what specific actions have to be performed,
Exactly.
aside from actually helping the user perform those actions in the most delightful way.
Exactly. And just extending that, or just saying that in a different way. If you take Uber, for example, you know what you're trying to do. You're trying to call a cab, and you know how to do it. Put your origin, destination, and click a button. Right. So in the case of enterprise, what do you need to do? That is not very well defined, or at least like that may be that may be defined, but that does not come out in the application or the app that you're trying to use, right? So the most important thing is, do you as a user know what you have to do? And that's something that needs to come in the front. And it's not just blindly you just do this without questioning. It's also the justification or explanation in terms of you need to do this because of ABC. You said this is your goal. For you to achieve this goal, this is the most important. So the first part is surfacing what you need to do. The second part is how do you do it? And this, again, there are different user experiences or journeys that are possible. But if you split it this way, how do you know what's the most important to do? And given that you need to do this, what is the best way you can execute this? You're in front of a customer. There's a product that you're trying to pitch. What do you need to know about the product? What does the customer need to know about the product? And how can application surface these things to you?
Right. You mentioned, multiple stakeholders being involved in a particular workflow or even a specific action. And what is the best way to kind of bring all of these folks together? You could talk about perhaps defining hierarchies and giving specific user journeys for each of these. How do you think through all of that?
Yeah. So the best way to bring all of these personas together is actually being able to identify what are the goals for these personas, right? It's almost impossible that the same user interface, the same application, the same goals are applicable to different personas. You as a financial advisor, your most important thing is who do I sell to and what do I sell? Your most as a people manager or as a coach, the way we call in Waymo, right? Your most important thing is within your team, who are the people that need help and where do they need help? Right? So for this person, a manager as a persona, this becomes the hero journey. Or if you take admin or not admin, head of sales or CEO as an example, right? They're most interested in knowing where do I stand today? What is my team achieving this quarter, and what are the hindrances towards achieving? Maybe the forecasting is not right. Maybe the bottom up allocation is not right, or maybe your team said this is the goal that they can achieve, but which is different from the goal that you're trying to achieve, right? So at a company level, at a quarterly level, or at an annual level, what are you trying to do, and what is the blocker? And obviously, at that level, you're not caring about one or two people, right? It's the most important roadblocks. So being able to identify these personas and being able to identify what they care about, and the application, the interfaces could be different. Could be a mobile interface, it could be a web interface. But if you know the persona and if you know what they care about, you can actually surface it better.
Right. What is the kind of impact that you've seen with having this kind of a consumer mindset in the enterprise?
The impact that a consumer kind of a mindset can bring in an application is there are actually multiple stages. The first and foremost is obviously adoption, right? So unless you have your users, and we are talking about enterprises with tens of thousands of users. So if they're using the application in a very consistent and predictable manner, that's when you go into the next stage, which is how do you influence the outcomes. So the first step is always adoption. The second step is, can you understand what are the activities they are doing and how are they correlating to the outcomes. So this way you can really drive things like, so if you know that it's important to call a lead within X number of hours, right? So these are the things that you can once people are using, you can actually assess the impact of certain activities towards certain outcomes. So the second way or the second step in terms of how you would define the impact is, do you understand what are the activities or what are the inputs that are going? Do you understand the outputs that are happening? And do you understand the correlation? You being able to say that you do this activity at this stage within this time, and that is going to lead to something. So that's the second stage of impact. The third stage of impact is when you can take these learnings and actually I mean, you'll always have high-performing sales reps, right? And you would have an intuitive sense of what they are trying to do. But because of the second stage, you would know what precisely those things are. So how can you use that to influence an average salesperson? So the impact here would typically be things like a person who is doing only 2 meetings per day now can suddenly do 5, or a person who is having a conversion of, let's say, 5%, they're able to get to 10%. And this you being able to do consistently at scale within the organization.
Right. For engineering leaders who are looking at this, perhaps listening to this, and want to adopt this consumer mindset in their enterprises, what is your advice and suggestion for them?
I think the most important thing for engineering leaders building enterprise applications to bring in the consumer mindset is, again, going back to the persona. So if you understand your persona, if you understand the kind of user who is going to be using this your application or anything that you're building, and you understand their day-to-day goals or day-to-day motivations, right? And like we were discussing, this is different for different personas, but an engineering leader who is aware of their users, who is aware of the users' personas, and is aware of the users' problems and why they are trying to use your application, then I think it makes a lot of things not necessarily easier, but it's clearer. So when you're building something, there are different ways in which you can optimize. You can optimize for scale, you can optimize for predictability, you can optimize for efficiency, you can optimize for the persona as well, right? So understanding the user, understanding their day-to-day problems will give you a guiding direction in terms of which way you want to optimize. And similar to sales or product or design, every step along the way, it's critical for engineering leaders as well to understand this.
So can you give an example in a Waymo context how we've been able to do that?
Yeah. So in Waymo's context, for example, one of the things that we really try and optimize for is, once you open Waymo, the nudge that is available on the home screen, how precise can it be? How relevant it can be, right? So as a financial advisor, there are 100 different things that you could be doing every day. You could be following up with customers. You could be generating new leads. You could be so there is one person who's already who you already sold the product, but they're in the process of onboarding. So you can influence that. There are a lot of things that you can influence. But once you open the app, what is the quickest way you can get to that, right? And this is also indicative of the usage that we see. It's not so an average Waymo user is not spending 2 hours in one go on Waymo. They actually come to Waymo on an average of 8 to 10 times during the day, and every time they're coming, they're spending about 5 minutes. And the reason that happens is because we have optimized the app that way. Right? You come to Waymo, there's specific information that you're trying to get, and you'll go and you'll execute that, and you'll come back for the next nudge. So this is a very solid example of how we are able to execute this.
Thanks so much for joining, Venkat. This was a really insightful conversation. Thank you for tuning in, folks. We'll be back with another episode with fresh insights from Waymo's leaders on the Waymo way of doing things.